Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Reading Half Marathon Training Webinar. Just a few days to go now to the race, and I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty excited. If you're finding you're getting a bit nervous, then that's a good thing. That's exactly how you should be feeling right now, because those nerves, actually, that's all that is. It's just a bit of excitement. That's all it is. So you'll be absolutely fine in the day. And what I want to go through today, just very briefly, actually, for about 15 minutes or so, are a few last-minute tips, some strategies, a few little things that I've picked up along the way, and that'll hopefully make the day itself a spectacular success for you. So I'm George Anderson. For those of you who don't know who I am the guy at the beginning of the race taking the warm-up. If you've done it before, then you may have hopefully taken part in that previously. And I also run the pace team. So if you're planning on running with one of the pacers, then it's highly recommended they all know exactly what they're doing, all running within themselves, which means that they should be able to not just run it at a metronomical pace throughout, but they'll also be able to help and encourage you as well. So go and introduce yourself to one of the team. That we've got pacers between 1:20 and 2:30 on Sunday in 5-minute increments, and I'm taking the 1:30 slot. So I really am looking forward to doing it. And if you, I shot a video earlier today, actually, on the route itself, because there have been a couple of changes to the route from last year, which I'm sure if you've done it before, I'm sure you're well aware of. I think they really add to the race. I think it's going to be a great day. And I think the route itself is a really solid route now. Or have a look at the video. I think it's been posted on the Facebook page, and it's on my personal profile as well. But the major changes that we're going to be going the opposite direction. We're going to get this mile out of the way before really the race even gets going. And what I was trying to say in the video probably didn't come across very well. You don't have to do that mile. Well, of course you have to do it, but you just get it done, and you'll barely even realize you're doing it, because you'll come out of the Green Park campus, and then you'll only have 12 miles to go. And you've used that first mile just to get into your stride. So just think of that as it's like your warm-up, and then you've got a mile warm-up, then you've got a 12-mile run. So there we go. It's going to be even easier now. Okay, I've got a couple of notes on here, things I want to cover this evening, and I'm literally going to be talking for about, as I said, 10 to 15 minutes. It might go on a little bit more, depends how distracted I get. But I really want to encourage you to ask your own questions. If you're watching this at 8:30 on Wednesday night, then it's live, but as live as it gets. So if you ask questions by leaving a comment in the box below, if you're on a mobile device, then you'll probably have to go back into Facebook again. But if you leave a comment on the post below, then I'm going to go through those questions. I'm going to read them out. So people who are watching this and aren't on Facebook, I'll read them out and then I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Best to keep them to the remit for my expertise rather than organizational things, in terms of like how to get car parking passes. That's not my bag, so I'm not really going to be able to be much help with that. So let's keep it with the stuff I'm hopefully going to be able to help you with. So one of the questions that comes up quite regularly is what to do in terms of training between now and the race. And it's Wednesday, the race is on Sunday. It's the questions are around, well, what, should you train tomorrow? Should you train on Friday? Could you go out for a run on Saturday? And you're not gonna increase your performance anymore by doing hard training runs. So you definitely don't want to be putting in any really hard sessions. Obviously, you're in a taper, but that's not to mean you can't benefit from going out and doing a few training sessions. So my personal preference for the taper, and as I've written into the training programs themselves for the Reading Half Marathon, is to back off the volume but increase the intensity on some of the runs. So adding in fast strides, maybe some sprints, some really short, maximum 1 minute duration of these sprints, and nice long recoveries in between them as well. So you're not really going out there for any longer than half an hour. Because what that's going to do is going to allow your body to recover and adapt. So on Sunday, your body really you're like a caged animal, chomping at the bit, ready to unleash all that potential over the course, 13 miles of Reading. But you're still your metabolism, your whole system is just primed and fired up, ready for it. And that's what these short sprints are capable of doing. But they're not going to wear you out. The balance is in doing the right volume of training, the right amount of training, the right intensity of training, without allowing your body to get fatigued, say you're ready for the day. Now, the only caveat with that is if you are particularly injury prone, or if you have a niggle, if you're nursing an injury at the moment, then don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything that you're not sure of. It's just too late. You don't want to be doing anything that's going to be at a high risk at this point. So don't worry about the fast stuff. Just go out there and do some easy jogs. You could even jog on Saturday, depending on how you've been training. You could even go out there and put an easy run in on the Saturday. You want to feel like you're itching to run. That's the idea. You want to get to Sunday feeling like you are just so ready for the race physically. Now, if you are nursing a bit of a niggle at the moment, then you almost want to take a step back and ask yourself, or try and be as objective with it as possible. Because when you're getting close to a race, and there's a lot of pressure that, I'll talk about pressure and mindset in a moment, but when you put pressure on yourself, every little niggle, every tiny little ache or pain, or a bit of a sore knee, or a tiny pain in the shins, for example, all of a sudden you've got a runner's knee, or you've got shin splints. And it can really get blown out of proportion because of the pressure. You feel like there's no way you're going to recover in time. And why does it have to happen now? This is really, really common. So just be quite objective with it as far as you can. And just ask yourself, well, really, is this going to stop me from running? Is it going to affect my performance? Because 9 times out of 10, it won't. However, there is the 1 out of 10 times where you have got a niggle now that needs a bit of attention. And there's just no time for mucking around now. You just got to get yourself down to see a physio and let them take care of it. Because there's probably something they can do. Last year when I was doing, my challenge last year was to run 10 marathons back to back, so 1 a day for 10 days, back in September. And I had all sorts of problems with my Achilles right up to about pretty much the whole way through. I had these problems. But I saw chiropractors and physiotherapists at the practice in Tame where he was supporting me for the race. And I didn't have any problems. All they did was they gave me massage, they gave me some treatment, they made sure I was aligned. And they showed me how to use physio tape. KT tape is what I was using, and it just made such a difference. And in fact, it meant that by the time I got to the end of the 10th marathon, I wasn't even thinking about putting it on. It was actually better than it was at the beginning. So if I'd just gone ahead and run it, or thought, well, you know what, I'm just going to duck out because it's just going to be an injury waiting to happen, then I'd really, really regretted that. So go and see a physio now. If you are having serious problems, it's just, you haven't got time to wait it out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So be sensible and go and see a physio. Okay, the race plan. That's the next thing. Now, I mentioned pacers right at the start there, pacemakers. If you have an idea of what you want to do, sorry, if you don't have an idea of what your target time is, then now is the time to get one. So go firm on what it is you want to achieve on the day itself. And the reason it's important is this: you need to know what pace you're going to set out at the start. Okay, it doesn't matter what you run. If you're not really bothered, you just want to get around, that's absolutely fine, by the way. But you still need to know what your target pace is, so you don't go off too slow and you don't go off too fast. Let's face it, it's not the distance that's going to get you; it's the speed. If you go off and you just take a nice leisurely strolling walk, then you're probably going to be absolutely fine and nobody's going to have any problems whatsoever, but you're not going to be performing to your potential. So if you want to perform to your potential, you have to have an idea at least as to what you're going to be shooting for. Now, don't forget, we've got paces right around to 2 hours 30, and I've seen this race many years, and there'll be lots of runners finishing between 2 hours 30 and 3 hours and even beyond. Not sure what time the sweep of vehicles go around, but they won't be taking the finishing gantries down whilst there are still runners on the course. So you're definitely not going to get left out there on your own. But the key thing to remember is that well, obviously someone has to come last, but you're going to be running at a pace, and you need to know what that pace is, because you want to finish this race feeling as though you're almost accelerating a little bit at the end. You're having a bit of a sprint finish because you're feeling good. You don't want to be the person who's just been overtaken by everybody because you've gone off too quick and you've had to stop after 8 miles because your hamstrings are tightening up and you're getting cramps. So make sure you spend a little bit of time over the next few days going back over some of your most recent training runs and deciding from that what target time are you going to be really, really happy with. Personally, I always have 3 times in mind. I have the time I think I'd really like to do. I have a time that I think, you know what, if everything goes really, really well, fingers crossed, if everything, the wind's behind me, and it's just a perfect day, I might run this time. And that might be a minute faster, it might be 5 minutes faster. But then I'll also have a if things go wrong and I don't really, things don't go the way I hoped, I'll still be happy with this time. And that might be a few minutes slower than my target time. So I have this window that I'm shooting for, and I'll hopefully come somewhere in between the two. And if obviously I go even quicker, fantastic. If I go any slower, then I'll take that information back and I'll review it over the next few days and try and work out what the heck went wrong. But hopefully that doesn't happen that often. So have a race plan, because it really, really does. It'll settle your nerves on the day when you know exactly what you've got to do. And I'm going to talk about process shortly as well. Okay, work out what your race day routine is going to be, what your logistics are going to be on the day. And I wrote about this in an email earlier in the week on Sunday. By the way, if you're not on my email list, make sure as soon as this webinar is over, head over to readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk. Stick your email address in the box there, because I'm going to be sending out even more content, even more stuff in the next few days that are going to really, really help you. I've got some cool resources to share with you as well. But so I wrote about this a couple of days ago, and it's just making sure that you planned in advance exactly how your day is going to pan out, up to the point where the gun goes. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen after that, but up to that point, you're in pretty much complete control. You know what time the race starts, 10 o'clock. You know what time my warm-up starts at 9:45. So you know you've got to be on the start line for around about 9:40 so you can get yourself in position to take part. And make sure you do that, because it's going to be a cracker. Make sure you've worked out how long it's going to take you to get to Reading in the first place. Build in some contingency time. Work out the fact that it's going to probably be 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of a slow walk from where you park the car, if you're driving in, to get to the stadium complex and the race village itself. So work backwards from the start time and decide what time you need to leave the house, then what time you need to get up in the morning. Plan what you're going to be having for breakfast. It doesn't want to be anything different to what you've been having previously, but make sure you've got it in. Make sure you've got your bag packed the night before. Take control of as much of what you can control as possible. Some things you can't control. You cannot control the outcome of what happens. It could be a horrendous day weather-wise. There could be all sorts of problems on the day. You just don't know. You haven't got complete control about that. What you have got control about are your logistics on the day. Yeah, of course, there might still be holdups on the way, but again, focus on what you can control. Not just because it'll take a little bit of stress out of the day with getting there on time, but because when there's going to be a lot of pressure, regardless of how you slice it. The Reading Half Marathon, big event, taking part, 17,000 other runners. It's going to be a huge atmosphere. So you want to try and reduce this stress in as many areas as possible, and this is one of them. It's really easy to do. All you got to do is make a little bit of time to plan how your day is going to pan out, and it's definitely worthwhile doing that. Okay. Talk about the route. If you haven't checked out the video I shot earlier, if you don't care about the route, what the route is, you don't want to know where the twists and turns, all the good bits are, and the hills, because there's a couple of little slopes, not really hills, they're just slopes. You don't care where they are, then don't worry about watching that video. But if you do want to get a bit of an insight, then I shot a video earlier today where I just went through the route in about 7.5 minutes and explained the bits that I think you want to watch out for. A couple of options for where you should think about putting spectators, if you have spectators coming. There's a couple of great places for them to stand and watch. Some of the really good atmospheric bits of the race, like the university campus, going under the underpass with the steel drums playing, all these really cool bits of the course, and of course where those little slopes are as well. So I've shot a video that explains all that, so go and check that out as well, so you get really familiarized. And again, it just means that you've got that little bit of extra information. If that you think that's going to help, then make sure you take 7.5 minutes to watch that video at some point. Okay, let's talk about spectators. Talk about that. Okay, I'm going to be sending out an email on Friday to my list. So again, get on the list, readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk, and I'm going to send you a link where you can download a printable pace band. Now, you can get these from other places. I'm going to send you a link. You just literally take a sheet, you print it out, you cut out your pace band. It's just a sheet, like a piece of paper, like you'd wear if you're going swimming. They put a little band around your wrist. It's just made of paper. Cover it in sellotape. I'll explain how to do all that. And it's got your timings for each mile. So every time you pass one of the mile markers, you check off and see how you're doing compared to your target time. So if you're going for, I'll take an easy one. Let's say you're going for 1:45, just because the math's not nice and easy. 1:45 is an 8 minute per mile average pace. So if you go through the first mile and you're on 8 minutes a mile, you check, perfect, that's exactly where I want to be. You go through the next mile and you're on 15 minutes, then you know you've just done a 7-minute mile. You've gone too quick for that last mile. So what that tells you is that you should start to slow down. You can't gauge at that point there whether or not you're going to be smashing out a 12-minute personal best by going at 7-minute mile pace instead of what you think is going to be an 8-minute mile pace. You make that decision after about 9 or 10 miles, because at that point there, you know, you've done most of the hard work and you'll be in a much better position to decide whether you can step things up and go a little bit quicker, or if you just need to kind of hang in there till the end. But use your pace band there to check it. Don't just rely on it. I got a Timex that I'll be using, or you might have a Garmin, you might be using your iPhone to tell you what how fast you're going. Don't rely purely on that, because you don't run the distance when you're doing a half marathon, you run the race. Those mile markers may well be spread around, they might be slightly out. You're not going to be running exactly 13.1 miles. You'll probably be running maybe 13.3, 13.4 miles, because you're not going to be going the shortest route that they'll have measured. There's one line that won't be marked out, but there'll be one line that travels the course, and that is the distance of 13.1 miles. If you deviate from that imaginary line, then you're going to be going further. No question about it. How much to deviate will tell you how much further you're going to be running. But it won't be 13.1. So if you're going off the Garmin purely, then you're going to get into trouble. So use this pace band, because it will tell you exactly where you should be at each of those mile markers. And if you're not, then you can make those adjustments to your pace. If you were the pacemaker, then they'll be doing all that for you. So you don't need to worry about it. They'll just stick as closely, they'll be briefed to be within 30 seconds plus or minus at each mile marker from mile 2 onwards, because mile 1 and 2 are a little bit hard to get into the swing of it. So from mile 2 onwards, they should be between 30 seconds quicker and 30 seconds slower than the target race pace, which means they'll finish hopefully as close to, damn it, perfectly on time when they cross the finish line. Okay, I want to finish this bit off. Remember, I want to encourage you to ask questions as well by writing comments in the Facebook post below that this link is in. And I'm going to be going through them in just a second. I want to finish, though, talking about mindset, because there's, especially if this is your first half marathon, or if you haven't done running before, or if you're going for something you've got a lot of pressure, there's a lot riding on it, then it can be quite, you can put that pressure on yourself, and it can make the event quite stressful. Now, you don't want that. You want a bit of nerves, you want that adrenaline, because it's going to help you, and it's going to help actually heighten the enjoyment. And it's the uncertainty as well of not knowing exactly how things are going to turn out. That's part of our human nature, is we need that uncertainty to feel fulfilled. It's one of the reasons why we go and do these things, like taking part in mass participation races. So what do we need to do? How do we take some of this pressure off ourselves? The answer to this is to focus on the process. Now, a lot's been written about this by me and by other people as well, and it just makes so much sense. It's so obvious when you think about it. If you just focus on beating your target time, you just focus on what it's going to mean if you make it round your target time, what it's going to mean if you don't make it round, that's when you start getting the pressure. You start thinking about how hard it's going to be to run 13.1 miles, especially if you haven't done it before. You've maybe never gone the distance before, and if you've been following one of my training programs, then you won't have gone the distance. Highly unlikely that you would have done, especially if you're looking at 2 hours plus. So there's all these unknown quantities, you're not quite sure exactly what to do. So by focusing on the end result, what happens is you don't know what that means. You don't know what it's going to be. And so your brain hasn't got anything to hook into. And so you start kind of future casting, you start getting into a bit of a fluster, you start getting a little bit, the nerves start working against you. So what I recommend you do is to focus on the process instead. What that means is you just think about how you're going to run that first mile, how you're going to take that next footstep, how are you going to hold your body, how are you going to relax your hands so your shoulders don't tense up, how are you going to breathe, how are you going to make that run, this next step, this next mile, this next half of the half marathon, how are you going to make this the best you can possibly make it by focusing on what you're able to control, which is how you run. You know that if you're, I go back to that example of, I'll use the example of two hours for the race. If you're going for 2 hours, you know that 9 minutes, 9 seconds is your average pace. That's what it should be to get into 2 hours. So you know that if you're going out, then you want to be getting like a metronome. You want to be hitting those 2 hours, those 909s for each mile, and you want to be knocking them out one by one. You can't focus on the next mile or the next mile. You can only focus on the mile that you're on. Focus on what you can control, the process. That's all you can do. Try to make every step as high quality as possible. Relax as much as you can. Don't change anything on the day. Just do what you've been doing, because you have been training. If you hadn't been training, you probably wouldn't be watching this video now. You've done something. Focus on what you have done, not what you might have missed, because nobody's got every single training session in. Nobody's training has gone exactly the way they wanted it to. Nobody. Not even the elite athletes will have done every single session that they might have done, or they could have done, or they feel like they should have done. So don't worry about what you haven't done, because you can't do anything about it. Just focus on the things that you have done. That's all I want to say about mindset, because if you can get your head around that, then everything else becomes a heck of a lot easier. Okay, I'm going to go in and answer a couple of questions now from Facebook. Remember, if you have asked any, then I will try and rattle through these as quickly as possible. And it'll take me a little while to get the thing up. So give me just a moment. Let's see if there's any questions. Okay, right. Luke asks, will we be given drinks at the finish line? Yes, you will. You'll get a goodie bag, and there'll be a drink in the goodie bag. I don't think actually at the finish line itself, but you'll get it when you funnel through. Just one note on that, by the way. It's a great question, Luke. It's a very relevant question. Logistics, I'm not necessarily, I can answer that one, but I'm not necessarily going to be able to answer logistical questions. What I can answer, because I don't have any part in the organization, what I can answer is training, nutrition, hydration, all those sorts of things. So ask me those kind of questions. Okay, Andy asks, the race pack states that the warm-up is at 9:45. The race starts 30 minutes later. I don't know about that, actually. I need to check on that. The race warm-up is definitely 9:45. It's 10 minutes long. My understanding is that the race kicks off at 10 o'clock. I spoke to one of the organisers yesterday who confirmed that. So I'm going to check on that for you, because I think that's something I'll be writing about that in my email on Friday and on Saturday. But I'm sure they'll get this up online as well. Oh, there's been an answer. Oh, actually, somebody has answered the question there. Sally just checked in there. Actually, sorry, Andy's question was about how to stay warm between the warm-up and the gun going. And Sally's just chipped in with a great response, which is probably what I would have said as well, is to keep warm with an old top, an old fleece or a jacket or something you don't mind chucking away, because when the race starts, throw it to the side, and you'll see thousands of people doing this. It'll be like a shower of old clothing, and then people come around afterwards, sweep all that kit up, and they get donated to a homeless charity, or at least that's what I like to believe. I think that's what happened a few years ago. I'm pretty sure it still does. Matthew asks, if I can run around an 8-minute pace for 10 miles in training, what's an appropriate race day pace? Well, it depends. If that's your absolute limit, Matthew, if 8-minute miles for 10 miles is your absolute limit, you couldn't go on another step at that pace, but I'd probably add 30 seconds to that pace and see how things go on the day. It's a difficult one to answer without knowing what else you've been doing in your training. Jess asks, can you clarify, can you run with headphones on Sunday? I can't clarify that because I don't know for sure. In previous years, people have been running and haven't been disqualified, but that might have changed this year. I don't know. I know some races have started to DQ people who have been running with headphones. It's for health and safety mainly, because you can't hear traffic announcements, you can't hear emergency vehicles if you're plugged into your headphones. I personally wouldn't recommend it anyway, because you miss out on a lot of the atmosphere if you are running with headphones. But I'm sure one of the organisers will be able to post something a bit more official than that. Claire, I did my first half marathon last year. I think I must have drunk quite a bit before the race. I didn't want to be dehydrated. Okay, consequently, I needed the loo during the race. Are there any toilet portal loo facilities at all on the course? I can't remember that either. What you want to do is drink a load of water. I think John's just answered that. Drink loads of water every day, but not much on Sunday yet. So start getting hydrated now. Don't wait until Sunday to start drinking extra water. Increase the amount of water that you drink today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and then reduce the amount you drink on Sunday. Because if you suddenly start drinking extra on Sunday, then your body isn't going to absorb it, so you are going to need to pass that water, hence the need for more frequent toilet breaks. What you can also do is to reduce the amount of water or maybe drink some on Sunday morning, but then reduce the amount that you drink as you get closer to the race. So the last half an hour, don't drink any water then, and maybe try and go for a wee before the start. But it is a problem. There are portal loos around the course, I understand. Joe, you talked about having 3 times in your head. I have 1:35 as my ideal, 1:40 is my middle time, and 1:45 is my slowest. which pacemaker do you think I should start with? Well, if 135 is your absolute dream time, then I would go with 140. I would start off with 140 and pick it up from there. The thing you've got to be careful with here is if you started off at one, I'll use this example, but it's the same for any of these kind of trios of times. If you start off with the middle time, if it's a 5-minute spread between your middle time, your slowest acceptable time, and your fastest ideal time, if you leave it too late to go for it, if you're feeling good, if you leave it too late, then you've got too much to to make up. So it is a bit of a gamble. You've got to be quite canny with this. You've got to think about what sort of shape you're in. You've got to, I guess it comes with experience. The more of these half marathons you do, the easier it will become to gauge how you're feeling at each of the stages. Because obviously how you feel after 3 miles isn't going to have any bearing on how you feel after 12 miles or 10 miles or 9 miles even. And you know, the point at which you should be thinking about stepping things up. But for you personally, Joe, I would go for a 140 pacer. Nick said, running with a cement mixer on my back for charity. Okay, not a question, just a statement. Aren't we all doing that? Okay, but if that's a metaphorical cement mixer, I think it's a real cement mixer. This guy ran it in a fridge, Tony the Fridge. He did it last year as well. So I'm guessing that a cement mixer could well be heavy. Depends if it's full or not. Matt, great advice as always. Thank you, George. Thank you, Matt. And good luck to you on Sunday as well. Nick, doing the Get You Round program feels a long 3 weeks of taper and then runs feel like a bit clunky and hard work. Guess this is normal. It is normal, and it's always a bit of a gamble, especially if it's one of your first or one of your first half marathons. And there's always the whole, I haven't got anywhere near 13 miles, and then you've got all of a sudden, maybe you get to 9 miles, you've got 4 miles of uncharted territory to wade through on the day. You just have to have the faith that you've done the training, and you will get around in one piece. The danger of doing too much, I mean, it's too late now anyway, you've only got 4 days to go to the race, but the danger of doing too much in the early in the program too close to the race is that you're not recovered enough. You want to feel recovered. It sounds like you're saying you're feeling quite clunky when you are running at the moment. That isn't unusual because your body is still recovering. But I imagine over the next few days, you're going to start feeling a little lighter on your feet, and you're going to start feeling a little bit more ready to run, Nick. So best of luck to you as well. Rebecca, is having your favorite cheat meal later after the race a bad idea? Absolutely not. My post-race ritual is to go straight to the hog roast stand and get 2 hog roast sandwiches and just go sit somewhere quietly and eat the pair of them. Have whatever you want to eat afterwards. Depends on what your nutritional philosophies are, but mine, I demolished the goodie bag on the way over to the hog roast stand. So do whatever you want to do. Don't take my advice on that one. Other than me saying you're free and you can do this absolutely guilt-free. So don't worry about that, Rebecca. Great question. I'll do it afterwards. Definitely don't do it before. Michael, hamstring very sore when I try to run fast. Okay, that's more of a statement rather than a question. I imagine the question from that is, what should you do about it? And the answer would be, first of all, don't run fast. Don't do the sprints. Don't do any, fast strides should be okay. And secondly, you want to go and see a physio if you can. If they are, I mean, hamstrings will be working extra. It depends if they're sore during or if it's just afterwards. If it's just afterwards, and that's okay, because they will work when you're sprinting or running very fast. But if they're hurting during it, then that's a bit more of a problem. It's something that suggests they could be on the verge of going ping. So go and see somebody if that's the case. But don't worry if they're just feeling a little bit sore afterwards. Just back off a little bit with the sprints. Okay, well, I have run to the end of the questions there. I'm just going to reload this in case any more have come in before my phone is reloaded. Oh, here we go. Zerin asks, when should I stop training? I was planning to run a 10K tomorrow. Is it a good idea? It depends, Zerin, on what your target time is. If you're planning on a 1:30, then 10K is probably not going to take you much more than 50 minutes at a slow pace. If you're planning on smashing a 10K, then I'd say that's not a good idea because it's not going to leave you enough time to recover. You'll be able to run, you'll be able to do it, no problem, in terms of the race, but it won't be, it's not the best thing to do. So it's not that you have to stop training, you just have to start getting smart with training. Reduce the volume, increase the intensity, so you're doing far fewer miles, but you're doing with a greater intensity. So that's why in my programs I have these short, sharp runs, the fast strides, and the sprints. So take a look at those programs if you haven't already. I don't know which program you're following as to whether or not you should continue with running a 10K tomorrow night. If it's in the program and you've been following it, you've got absolute confidence in that, then go for it. It's thirsty work all this talking. I've done the warm-up, by the way. I'm really looking forward to doing the warm-up. I've got a team of 5 other presenters, and we're going to be joined on stage by some Virgin Active crew as well. It's going to be a real buzz, and there's a great mix. Heart have done a fantastic mix for us this year, and I've been having a lot of fun putting the warm-up routine together. It's nice and simple, but I really want you guys to join in. There's nothing more soul-destroying than being on a stage prancing around and no one's doing anything. So come on, join in this year. There's 3 stages, and we're spread out along the start line. I'll tell you what, the thing about the warm-up is it's not just to get your body physically ready for the race. I've always believed that the warm-up is an opportunity just to take your mind off things, to focus, but to take your mind off worrying about anything, because you have to focus on a routine. It's a really simple routine, but you've got like a distraction. So think of it as just pre-race entertainment, if you will, but do join in because it will take your mind off it. Then you've got 5 minutes to go. Otherwise, what you're going to do is going to stand around the start line worrying about when the gun's going to go. You might as well come in and have some fun with me and the team doing the warm-up as well. I was going to check back in for one last time. Oh, there's another question here. Are the pacemakers restricted to certain coloured zones? Pacemakers, I don't know exactly where the paces will be lining up in terms of the zones. The reason being, they're not restricted to zones. They can go in whatever zone they want, but I'll have my 120 guy obviously quite close to the front, and I'm going to have them spaced out as evenly as possible right the way back down to 230, so that they will be in the most appropriate zone. That's a great question, actually. Thanks for asking that. They will be in the most appropriate zone for their target time. But if you're in the zone behind them, you can't move into the zone in front. You won't be allowed, and it's not recommended. But what I would recommend you do is get to the front of your zone so that you're not too far. As long as you can see your pacemaker, you'll be able to make your way up to them during the course of the first mile or two. Just keep your eye on them, and they've got a big flag on their back. You really can't miss them. Just keep your eye on them and get to them. If your pacemaker is in the zone behind you, then you can move back. Again, I'm pretty sure that's the case. I'm sure I'll be corrected if it's not. You can move back. You can start in a slower start zone. That's absolutely fine. So look around, find where your pacer is. You'll be able to see them. I'm going to ask my guys and girls to be on the start line for 9:40. So 5 minutes before the warm-up starts, they'll be online, and there won't be masses and masses of people there at that point. So if you want to make sure you find your pacer, get in there at 9:35, 9:40 when the pacers will be lining up, and you can just zone in, and then you can find out whoever it is you want to run with. And go and introduce yourself as well. Don't just go and circle around behind them. Go and say hello, because we're people. We're all very sociable people. We like to help you. We want to help you, and we'll be talking the whole way. We're not just going to be running mile by mile like a metronome. We will be. We'll be talking. We'll be calling out what our splits are. We'll be calling out how we're getting on compared to what our target is. We'll be telling you where the hills are coming up. We'll be telling you how ask you how you are. We'll be chatting the whole way around. If you don't want that, then step back a little bit and don't come and say hello. But if you want to help, if you want some extra help, then that's the way to do it. It's like having your own personal pacemaker. It really does make a big difference. Rose, oh, you're the best. Oh, thanks, Rose. No, you're the best. You're the best. Jess, are you still planning on doing the visualization webinar? Yes, sorry about I did say I was going to do a visualization webinar. What I'm going to do on Friday is I am going to run it'll be quite a short visualization webinar. There'll be 2 parts to it. I haven't quite planned out exactly how it's going to work yet. But when I talk about visualization in the last webinar through that Reading Half Marathon Facebook page, I talked about visualization then, and it had a really good response, for good reason too, because it's flipping brilliant. It works. And all we talked about was imagining yourself during the race, and kind of going through the race and imagining yourself at the finish line, finishing in your target time. And you lock that image into your mind. And we went through a very quick sequence of doing that. Now, what I'm going to do on Friday is during the day, so it will be live during the day, and I'll post the time at some point. It'll be through the Facebook page, or sorry, through my Facebook group, but there's a link to it on this page. If not, then the RHM guys can stick it up quickly. But I'll be putting the link up during the day. Now, it will be recorded, so if you can't make it live, it doesn't matter. It'll be recorded. But what it's going to be is in two parts. The first part will be a standard visualization technique. It'll take about 5 minutes. But the second part is I'm actually going to play a couple of the tracks from the warm-up. And the reason I want to do this is I want you to lock in whilst you're listening to the music. I want you to lock into getting into the zone. They're like an anchor. If you've ever done any NLP or heard of NLP, you may have heard of the words anchoring. And I want to anchor that. One of the songs, I'm going to play 3 songs for you, and I want you to anchor those songs into a feeling of intense control and confidence. Because if you can do that away from the race, when those songs come on, your body, your mind is immediately going to go back to those times when you felt that complete control and confidence. And that's what we want to instill. That's a pretty useful resource to have at the start of a half marathon. It's going to be triggered when those songs come on during the warm-up. Okay, another good reason to be doing the warm-up, to make sure you're paying attention, ready for your trigger songs to come on. Okay, so let me just take one more check there. So that'll be on Friday. I'll post the link, and if you can't make it live, it doesn't matter. It will be posted as a, it will be up there as a recording, just like this one is. Mark, any advice for running up Heartland Road 2 to 3 mile marker? Now, Mark just asked a question there about the first of the slopes, aka the hills. Its advice would be just to maybe take a couple of seconds per mile off your pace. So it's not really a massive hill. It's nothing to write home about. It's a hill, yes. You're going to be increasing your elevation there, but you don't need to change your strategy at all for that. You'll make up that and in spades. It's the start and finish in the same area pretty much. So you're going to be going up as much as you come down. Going down Kendrick Hill about 3 miles later, you'll definitely make up for that that slope up. Rebecca, when do you get the timings from the chip on your race number? Pretty much straight away. It's certainly within hours of finishing. The chip times will be published. It's very, very quick. They're very efficient. So yeah, if you check back on their website, then the Reading Half Marathon website, you'll get it. You might even get an email. I'm not sure how it works now. You might even get an email with your chip time and your gun time. But the best thing is to do, just start your watch. It's something like 1 in 10,000 cases, the chips don't work. It's just they just don't work, and they give you some really weird time. I've come across it a few times. It's not happened to me before, but it does happen. So you always want to make sure that you have your timer running as well. So have your own watch, because you need to know how you're getting on through the race. So it's not just the finish time. You want to know how you're going. When it's the process to focus on, it's not just the end result. So timing itself, but you probably get them pretty soon afterwards. Okay. Thanks for your questions, folks. I'm going to leave it there. I will go back on the Facebook at some point tomorrow. If you do have any other questions, then post them again. Remember, 2 things to do. Head over to the Reading Half Marathon training group, the group, not the page. This is the page you're on now. Go to the group as well, which I run, because that is a great place. If you have questions for me personally about your training, about the last minute things, then I'll be able to answer, and loads of other people. It's a great group. Loads of people really supportive of each other in there. And the second thing is go over to readinghalfmarathontraining.co.uk, put your email address in there. It's the one I was sending program. If you're already on my email list, you get my Sunday email about the Reading Half, then you're already on the list. But if you're not, make sure you get over there, because on Friday I'm also going to be sending out a link where you can download your own printable pace band and a load of other stuff, great information as well, that's going to help you on Sunday. Make the best of the day. So thanks again for tuning in tonight. We had a great bit of attendance, and I'm sure that many people will watch this this 40-minute video afterwards as well, as it's up as a recording. So thanks again. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Come over and say hello. If you see me beforehand just skulking around, then come over and say hello. I'm taking the kids warm-up as well, the Green Park Challenge warm-up at 8:15 in the morning. So if you're not doing that with your kids or whatever, come over and say hello to me when I get off the stage at 8:30 for that one as well. It'd be great to see you. If you've been following my programs, I always like to kind of meet people who have been doing it, because it's it makes it a bit more real for me. Otherwise, I'm just sat at home on the computer all the time, writing these things out and talking to webcams like I am right now. It's actually good to see real people who have been doing what I've been suggesting, and hopefully going to get a great result from the day. So thanks again. Good luck on Sunday. Have a fantastic race, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.